All right, today in Honors Higher Algebra, we are doing a little quiz, 7 questions. It's going to go in the grade book, but not in the 85% category, in the 15, like homework. It's out of 7 points. I'm even going to grade it generously because when it's out of a small number of points, you know, and you get like 7 out of 8, that's like a B. That's kind of sad. So I'll grade it generously. But here are those first 7 questions. Number 1, I'm asking, one of these, for instance, is the argument. One of them is some other name I'm not going to tell you. There are names for all 3 spots in a log. This spot's called something, and the x is called something, and the 12 is called something. Okay, number 2, it says rewrite as an exponential, because see, it's a log right now. Write it as an exponential. If you're wondering what an exponential looks like, number 6 down below here, that's an example of an exponential. 5 to the x equals 8, that's an exponential. All right, then on number 3, it's just asking you to simplify log base 3 of 3 to the 4th. If you know the pattern, this is a super simple answer. Same with 4 and 5. Number 6, that's an exponential, and I want you to rewrite it as a log, like log base 8 of blah, blah, blah. Not saying that's right. If you don't know how to write a log, and you've been in logs for 2 days, that is kind of sad. Number 1 is a log, for example. And then the last question that you're not able to see on the board at home is written on the board in class, but you could write it down if you're at home and try this. Y equals log base 3 of x. You're graphing log base 3, y equals log base 3 of x. All right, I'm going to give this a few minutes to work on that. All right, so I'm getting started on the new stuff here so that kids don't have to sit and wait for the other kids to finish that quiz. All right, so if you had this problem, your steps are simplify it as much as you can. Like, is there anything I can do, like anything I could like do to simplify the 8, make it the same base as the 3, or anything I could do to simplify? And I don't see anything. So I'm going to say I'm done with that. Next is rewrite this. That's this kind. 3 to the, you just got quizzed on this 2 seconds ago. 3 to the what? Equals, yes, that is written in exponential form. This to the this equals that. It's kind of like going around the circle. It goes back and forth. Now, could you solve that? It is solved. X is alone already. What if there had been a 2x right here? Well, then this would be a 2x right here. And now would the x be completely alone? No. What would you do at the very end then? Divide by 2. It wouldn't be too tough. Okay. So the point, simplify it if you can, rewrite it, and that's all it took. The rewrite here got the x alone, and it was done. I added the 2 in to make it a little more challenging. Then I just have to divide by 2 on both sides. 3 to the 8th is some huge number. Divide it by 2, and you'd have your answer. All right, so that's a typical problem today. You start by simplifying, then you rewrite it, then you can solve it. All right, here's one more. Is there anything I can do to simplify it? Like if I could add x plus 7, I would. Or if there was like a times 7 here, I'd multiply the 7 times the 3. But there's nothing I can do to simplify this. So what's step 2? Rewrite it. Everybody rewrite that. Hint, start with the base. Two to the third, and then you come back for this part, equals x plus 7. And what's the last step? Solve. So how do you solve? You get the x alone. So what's the last step, AE? You are correct. Yes, you may. And it's pretty much done as long as you know what 2 to the third is. What's 2 to the third? 8 minus 7. Now, I think it's 1, but do you get that you really ought to check? If you were about to do brain surgery on somebody you think maybe you should just check to make sure that you're doing it in the right part of their brain or whatever. I guarantee you there's a lot of that happens in hospitals. There's been so many surgeries where they have by accident removed the wrong leg. I'm not kidding. Like they have to do surgery and they're supposed to take out a lung and oops, I took out the wrong lung. And that's really bad because obviously if you have two of something, is usually when this happens, you took out the one that wasn't damaged. Then you only got the one left that is. It's like, oh. So I don't know, has anybody ever had this where they had to go in for an operation and the doctor made them put an X or sign? Did you have that? What did they make you do? You had to mark the leg. Yeah. And if you were of age where you could sign like a contract, like an adult age, they probably would have made you put the mark on the leg. Like, this is the leg I want you to fix. You know, like they make you put a mark there and then they won't by accident, oops. And again, it doesn't happen often, but all it takes is to be the 1 in 10,000, that one person. That's terrible. All right, my point, you should check your work because you're not going to lop off somebody's leg by accident, but you could screw up your grade pretty good by not being careful. So how do I check and see if this is right? I'm going to take this 1 here, and I'm going to go put it in here, and we're going to see if it actually works. What is 1 plus 7? What is 2 to this? Sorry, this is a 2, and this is an 8. Couldn't I write 8 as 2 to a power? It's 2 to the what? Third. And then since these two match, the bases are the same, that means the answer is 3, and it's supposed to be 3, so yay, I checked it, and it worked. That's what I strongly recommend that you do. All right, what was the steps again? Simplify it, rewrite it, and solve. Is there anything you can do to simplify this? And this time the answer is yes. The whole left side could be way simplified before you do anything else. If you haven't noticed it yet, that could be rewritten so this whole side can be simplified. Did you figure out what to do with the 1/4? 4 to the -1 is very smart. Nice. Why is that so smart? Because now the bases match. And since the bases match, what does that mean? The whole thing equals -1. I said simplify, and that's simplifying. Now, I can even skip the rewrite step because this doesn't even have an exponential, so it doesn't even need that. If it was an exponential, I'd want to rewrite it to a log. But this doesn't need that. Can't I just go right to the solving part? Yeah. Did you get how you could solve for x now? You just add 1 to both sides. All right. Now, remember me saying you should check it? This is feeling a little fishy. Dividing by 5 on both sides, and 0 equals x. That doesn't maybe feel right, so I'm going to check. How am I going to check? Plug a 0 in where? So, here's back to the original. The original said this. Log base 4 of 1/4 was equal to 5x minus 1. If x really is 0, then this whole side is -1. And wait a minute, didn't I figure out before that that was equal to -1? So it worked. If you forgot how this was equal to -1, it's because this was 4 to the -1. And that meant the bases were the same, so the answer is the exponent, and it looked like it worked. Actually, x is 0. And some people have this weird idea that any 0 or negative answer is like wrong. Nope. You just stick it back in the problem and see if it causes any problems. What if the problem had said log base x of 12 equals blah, 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 blah? Then, yeah, you got an answer of 0, you got a problem. When you stick it in, you realize, wait a minute, I can't have bases or arguments that are 0. All right, so the steps in order, simplify it, rewrite it, solve for x. Now let's look at your homework. I'm going to pause for a second while we get the homework out. Okay, here we are. I am going to tell you which ones you can skip. You ready? I made a list. It's problems 3, 7. These are the skips now. 3, 7, 13, 15, 19, and 20. I'll read it one more time. 3, 7, 13, 15, 19, 20. Three, 7, 13, 15, 19, 20. All right, so let's start. Can I simplify it? Is there any way to simplify it and make it like a lot easier? Like, well, that is 6 squared, but it doesn't really like help much, so I don't have to do that. Then I'm going to rewrite it. X to the second equals, I could say 6 squared. That might be smart. X squared is equal to 6 squared. And then I'm going to, how do I get rid of squareds? I put it to the power of 1/2. Now, a really smart kid is going to realize there's an absolute value of x is 6, and they're going to know the answer is 6 and -6. But here's the thing. They can get burned by being really smart because they're like, hoo-hoo, I caught that little absolute value, and there's 2 answers. But they get burned by that because now they just included an answer that actually, when you check it, is extraneous. And so they were a little too smart. Unless they're smart enough to also know that, hey, I checked it, and that one won't work. Final answer, x equals 6. Yes?
On the key, it says 6.
Key's wrong. Teacher forgot to check. Thanks for checking that for me. But do you get that the -6 doesn't work? Because you can see, you can't put negatives in the base there. All right, next one. Can I simplify it? Nothing to simplify. Can I rewrite it? Yes. X to the -1 equals 15. And then I just have to solve it. How do I get rid of a -1 up here? I put it to the -1. Because -1 times -1 is +1, and x to the +1 is just x. So it's that. So what the heck is 15 to the -1? 1/15. Very good. All right. There you go. You got a fair amount of time to work on this. Conferences are today, and so I'm going to be trying to put in a few more projects. I'll realistically only get through a few more people, and it's okay. I am enjoying the finding out, a lot more about you by what you were interested in doing someday and what you'd be kind of interested in buying. And so it's going slow, but I am enjoying this process. If anybody asks, the average grade on this project is an A. And so if anybody at conferences asks, I'll tell them you're likely to get an A because the average, almost everybody's getting an A on the project. So you can factor that in to your grades. That's not a guarantee. Sadly, I did grade 1 earlier today. It was the exception to the rule. You have to have your math part right in order to get all these points. So, all right, that's all I have for you for today.